Stuart Monksfield, everybody. Mojo Media Solutions, based here in Sydney. Stuart is going to tell you what we're going to do and what country we're all in.
Yeah, and we're going to make this up as we go along. This is not so much a scripted, apart from the first 25 slides.
Yeah.
We know you all like PowerPoint. Those of you who know me, sorry about that. I've been around for way too many years. Warren and I used to work together at Cutting Edge. So Warren was colorist there, and we spent a lot of late nights doing telecine dailies and things like that, and DI. So I've got a lot of experience in post with Cutting Edge on an engineering level and then an operations management level. And prior to that, I was with Sony Europe for a long time as well. And during that period, I've seen a lot of technologies come and go, and only a few have really changed the way we work. So that might be digital Betacam, for example, the first digital workhorse format. And then a few years later, we had HD Cam. We've seen the change from editing in a linear world over to non-linear world, and that stayed. We've had Flame, which was originally discrete, and of course now that's Autodesk. And those kind of technologies make a huge difference and last. And you don't see those very often. And I equate what I'm about to show you from Colorfront, the streaming system, to one of those new technologies, one of those things that it only comes around once every 10 years, but it changes the way you do things so much, it will hang around for a long time. So I believe this is a really exciting thing, and it's come in part on the back of COVID and us all needing to work in a different way, working from home, working remotely, internationally, directors in London with a shoot happening in Sydney, etc. So who's heard of Colorfront, apart from the Rebel Fleet guys? You've got quite a few systems in there. So there's a couple of hands going up, so I know there's a couple of customers in the room here. So Colorfront are a Hungarian-based company. They've been around, I don't know exactly, I'm thinking probably 15 to 20 years. They're a post house in Budapest, quite a big post house in Budapest, and they started developing their own software in-house where they could see different and better ways that they could do things. There's a lot of clever software developers come out of the universities in Hungary specifically, and they started doing software-based grading long before Resolve or DaVinci, as they were, made hardware-based color grading. They had DaVinci 2K, and then they started to create a color grading system which was going to be a bit more file-based, but it was still hardware-based. And Colorfront developed something which they, a few years later, sold to Autodesk for many millions of dollars, and Autodesk took it to market as Lustre. And you're probably more familiar with Lustre in the color grading field. And Lustre was the first widely available software-based grading system, but it was hugely expensive. And of course, later Blackmagic bought DaVinci, turned Resolve into a $400 license, and things have changed for Autodesk, who probably wish they hadn't paid quite so many millions to Colorfront to buy the technology off of Colorfront. So their background, they've got a very high pedigree, very smart bunch of development guys. And right now, as I say, apologies for the flickering slideshow, we won't have too much more of this. They develop systems which are used for the mastering these days of your DCPs and your IMF packages. The Rebel Fleet's a big customer using the on-set dailies product, so it's grading sound syncing at the highest possible quality, and they've taken that highest possible quality thing into the streaming side of things. This is going to be really hard for you and me. Maybe I'll just hold the laptop up as a cue to myself. So we're going to talk about a 4-channel streaming server, and I've got one of those here. So this little tower computer here is a streaming server running the Colorfront software. So this one box here can take 4 separate 4K signals in from different cameras. They can be HD signals. We can combine them all together and stream an 8K signal anywhere in the world. So there's this 4-channel version, and then newly introduced at NAB 1 month ago is a software-only version that you can run in the background on a Mac or a Windows computer, or you can run it standalone on a Mac or a Windows computer, which is a single channel of HD-capable software. So you don't need dedicated hardware. You can run it on the computer that you've already got. Okay, so that's very, very new. Oh, there we go. The concept of streaming, though, is a bit more than we might see through YouTube or Facebook Live and things like this. So in the space that Colorfront play in, which is very much very high-end Hollywood studios are their bread and butter clients. They have an office in Santa Monica, and they're in at, you know, Disney, Marvel, Warner Brothers every day, selling OSD, selling transcoder boxes. Technicolor, Deluxe would have, you know, 20, 30 of these systems, and they're doing all the mastering of the DCP cinema releases that get sent all over the world. They're used by Netflix to QC the incoming package that Silvertrack would create. So I heard Adam talking about Silvertrack earlier. So they're a mastering house here in Sydney. They're a Netflix approved vendor. They're creating master packages here, but they get sent to Netflix. Both people are using Colorfront product, okay, to create and then to QC it on the incoming side of things. There we go. So again, now the thing about the streaming stuff, it's not just about streaming through a computer. So you can stream through and watch something through Chrome or Safari or whatever as a browser on any computer, but what are you looking? You don't know, you're not sure if the operating system is modifying the colors. You don't know how the screen is looking. If you want to send it out to an external monitor, how can you get SDI out of VLC or something like that? It's very hard to predict what is going on when you're just streaming to a browser. So the Colorfront system is not just the sending part of it and watching through a browser. There's a decoding part that goes with it, and the two together give us a completely color-controlled pipeline from source to anywhere in the world onto a reference monitor. This is obviously way too annoying to continue flickering on in the background, so I'll unplug that. Hopefully in a second I'll be able to see my own cues. This system that they've created combines the encoder. It combines what we call an SRT gateway in the cloud, and a management software layer around that SRT gateway, and it includes decoding options. And the decoding options are all around us. So we've probably all got one of these in our pocket, in our bag already. So my iPhone can decode a 4K stream. This iPad can decode a 4K Dolby Vision 444 stream, including the dynamic metadata that comes through Dolby Vision. Okay. Warren, next to Warren over here, we've got my MacBook Pro. I've got the decoding software installed on here, and that's connected to a $180 Blackmagic SDI Thunderbolt device, and that's providing this. Okay. Warren's just installed the same software on his laptop during the lunchtime break, and later on he'll be decoding some signals and feeding up here as well. So from this one computer here and this control interface for it, I can send multiple channels of color precise SDR or HDR signals to anywhere in the world at low latency on a public internet service, and we're not talking about hundreds of megabits per second data rates. So there's been streaming solutions around. Have you heard of TVIPs?
Yeah.
Anyone heard of TVIPs? Yeah. So TVIPs is what the Hollywood guys have loved for the last 10 years, more maybe, I don't know. Very, very expensive box. It uses JPEG 2000 compression, and there's a lot of IP around that, but they're, I think, $20,000 US per box. But other than the cost, you need another $20,000 US box to decode that stream. On top of that, you're probably looking at more than 100 megabits of upload internet speed. So it's a bit more than most people have at their homes. Okay, very expensive to use and run because of the internet.
So this is typically big studio shoot, execs are not there, want to see that day as it rolls out because it's really important. 4 streams of the 4 cameras on the big
It could be 4 streams.
stunt.
It could be in the post house, it could be on set, it could be the single channel HD unit on set. For sending it to a producer who can't travel because they're maybe the lady's pregnant, or maybe the producer's just not allowed to travel because there's an embargo for COVID reasons or something like that.
Would you be recording it on this end, or is that another product to be recording it? So they wanted to record it to start cutting a
If you wanted to record, you can, because you've got SDI out.
Because you've got SDI,
but you wouldn't do that these days, do you? You just send a file. Yeah. So the other options on the market have been, there's a solution from SohoNet called Clearview Flex. That is, again, very, very expensive to run. The purchase cost is not so bad, but they charge you for what we call egress data. So egress data is the term we use for data that you pull down from the cloud. So you can imagine if you were sending a 20 megabit stream between me and Warren, that's one stream of 20 megabits. But if you want to stream to 30 people, that's 30 times 20 megabits coming down from the cloud. So the egress data charge that you will get from SohoNet or from AWS or wherever you're doing it is going to scale according to how long you run, what data rate you run, and how many people you go to at any one moment in time. Now, the Colorfront system is no different in terms of the way it's getting the signal there, but their business model is different. So they have a flat pricing system with the egress data. So your cost of using what you've bought is zero. Whereas on the competitive system, the cost of using what you've bought keeps ramping up the more you use it. It's not very friendly. It could be Resolve, it could be Avid, could be Premiere, anything you want that can output a signal in SDI or HDMI. Obviously, you can convert that to SDI. It then goes into the streaming server, this box here. The output of this is what we call an SRT stream. It's then encoded into a low bit rate SRT stream, which goes up to the SRT gateway in the cloud. So we have an upload internet connection from this computer, and in HD that might be between 5 and 10 megabits for an HD stream. Okay, if it was a 4K stream, you might want to run it at between 10 to 20 megabits per second. So still quite low, and something that you can do at your home internet. You don't need a very expensive Telstra or SohoNet feed into your home to be able to stream 4K to 50 people around the world. So it's one stream up from here, and this is an important part. So it's a single stream going up into the cloud. In the cloud, there is a server, and that server in the cloud duplicates that stream and sends it to however many people you're trying to stream to. So it's one up, 50 down, let's say. Okay? So your bandwidth requirements do not vary at the source side according to how many people you're going to. So that's very, very important. And then at the decoder end, we've got, as I said, all those different options for you to watch it on. So this user interface, which we put up on the bigger monitor there, I'll just walk you through some of what's going on. So for the purpose of this explanation or demonstration, I've got multiple sources. So this underwater IMAX movie, turtle movie, something that I'm closely involved with, is just playing back on this little Blackmagic player up here. It's just a source, could be a camera, could be anything. So this is channel 1 coming off of here. These two are both coming off of Resolve. I've got Resolve running on this older MacBook Pro over here. It's just running in the background. Somewhere I've got a dual boot on there. Okay, so that's just playing a timeline constantly on the loop over there. So that's just another SDI in. And then Warren's Resolve that he's got over here is providing the input that's going into channel number 4.
Am I got a colour?
You can.
We haven't talked money yet.
We haven't talked money? No.
Right.
So let's just have a quick walk through some of these things, and then we'll retune and explain what's going on over there. So if you'd like to, obviously watch the screen up on the top there. So this is the main user interface. So we've got 4 distinct channels from left to right in a vertical sense. That's a single channel. That's just giving us some stats, showing the audio, and I can start and stop the streaming according to the buttons here. Now for each one of these channels, we can specify which SDI it's coming in from. So this server has got 4 separate feeds going into it, and channel 1 is coming from SDI number 2. Channel 2 is coming from SDI number 1. I've just obviously cross-cabled them. It doesn't matter. I can change those anytime. Channel 3 is also coming from SDI 1. And channel 4 is coming from Warren, which is coming in on SDI number 4. So why, you might ask, might I want to do what I've done here, which is have this video on 2 separate channels, okay? So if you're streaming to a post house, it's probably a safe bet that they've got some seriously fast internet speed going into their building. However, if at the same time you needed that signal to go to someone who was on a bus, watching on their iPad, using a hotspot off their phone on their 4G crappy Telstra mobile internet service. So if you want to send 20 megabits to the post house, that's no problem. But do you think that person on the bus can receive a 20 megabit stream? Probably not. So the advantage of having a multi-channel streaming box that can map any of the SDI feeds to any of the channels is you might run this channel, let's say, at the source resolution. Let's say that was coming in, it's not, but let's say this was coming in at 4K, and I needed to send a high quality 4K to Warren. I might run this one at 4K 20 megabits. But on this channel, this is the channel that the guy or the lady on the bus is going to connect to on their mobile service. I'm going to down-res this to HD, and I'm going to stream this at only 5 megabits. So the same content is going to go out on 2 separate channels at the same time, and depending on who is connecting and what their device is and what their internet connection speeds are, they will connect to either channel 1 or channel 2. And the difference is resolution and obviously quality. So having a multi-channel box is great. If you only had a single channel box, you would have to adapt your streaming bitrate and resolution to accommodate the worst person's viewing device and internet connection. Yeah, make sense? So we could have the same feed on all 4 channels if we wanted to, no problem. So we could have HDR, an SDR version of the HDR, plus some other bit rates in other bit rates, etc. there.
Warren, can I ask you a question, please?
Yeah, fire away.
So is this version here now, because you and I were talking about how you can stream Dolby Vision.
Yeah.
So could that stream a Dolby Vision like MP4 that could be read on someone's phone yet? In its
So,
version 8 HLG?
yeah, so in the, yes it can.
You'd have to show me.
I can show you, we'll get through it and we'll have a look. We'll probably look at it on the iPad,
Yeah, okay.
because the upload speed here at ACS is 17 megabits, and I'm going to struggle to send some higher quality signals up, and I don't have anything Dolby Vision as part of my demo content. But if you want to stream Dolby Vision, the way it works is the SDI coming out of Resolve or Baselight is carrying the Dolby Vision metadata trims in the SDI. Just like it carries the audio, it's carrying the metadata for the Dolby Vision. This Colorfront software running on this server takes that SDI in, it strips off that Dolby Vision metadata, and when it sends the compressed video and compressed audio through the system to all the viewers, that Dolby Vision metadata is also sent with it.
So what format does it stream?
It's in the protocol is SRT and the compression is HEVC.
Right,
Okay.
And Stuart, you had NDI on your slide that was flickering.
Yes.
How much of this stuff is in the NDI protocol versus...
It's purely an input option. So once it's entered the box, it's then converted to SRT from a streaming point of view. NDI is terribly hard to stream outside of your LAN. Yeah, you have to go through their, Bird Dog have a service that you can stream through, whereas SRT is a lot more manageable. The latency is not quite as good with the SRT, but it's still very good. It's sub 1 second. So I've measured the latency from my home. I went up with a 4K stream, down, had 2 SDI monitors. I recorded the 2 across a cut and jogged through the clip on Resolve, and it was 17 frames only. So that could be the other side of the world in 4K, and it can get there in 17 frames. It could get to 50 people all at the same time, all with 17 frames lag. And it's color transparent all the way to the remote end. Okay.
We've used it for remote grading as well. So there's like a colorist in one facility, and then our facility with someone viewing it there.
Yeah.
Which is quite handy.
So Joel here's from Soundfirm. So they're one of the early adopters. They've got a system. They've got a 4-channel system in Sydney and a 4-channel system in Melbourne, and they're routinely using it for remote grading for directors who are too busy to travel up for a 3-hour review or something. They'll just hook it up down there and send it down. At the moment, I've got the resolution that I want to stream at to be same as source. However, I have the option, should I desire, to change the resolution. So this particular source is coming off my little Blackmagic Hyperdeck. It's HD res, so if I changed it to HD here, it would change nothing whatsoever. I could, however, upscale it to 4K and stream 4K. But why would you want to do that? It's probably more pertinent to do it the other way around. So if your source was 4K, but you only wanted to stream at HD, you would do that, okay? Just to lower the bit rate, because not everyone needs to see 4K at the remote end. But most of the time we'll be streaming at the same resolution as what's coming in. An important part is the next option that's been added in here. So Colorfront are very famous for their color science and skills in that field. So the Colorfront system now, if you were grading in a theatre on a Christie projector, you might be grading in what we call XYZ color space, which is something that's not particularly pretty to look at if you put it into a monitor that doesn't support XYZ. So if your source signal out of the baseline or the resolve is in XYZ because it suits your grading theatre, but you want to stream that signal to someone who's watching on an ISO monitor or a laptop, they don't want to see XYZ. They want to see it in P3 colour space or Rec 709 colour space, according to the monitor that they've got in their facility. So the Colorfront system, with all their colour science, is colour aware from source to all the destinations it's streaming to, and it reports back. So here it knows it can pick up, if it was a Colorfront SDI based source, it would pick it up automatically. You can also manually tell it, oh, this is XYZ, or this is P3, or this is 709. So your stream is flagged as it leaves you as being XYZ. So Warren's in Brisbane, and he's looking on a Rec 709 monitor, and he connects to that stream, but he needs to, on his software, say, give me a Rec 709 output. So in his decoder software, he has the option to say, make it 709, and he sees it correctly in 709 color space on his monitor, even though the source was in XYZ, okay? So these color settings are very, very important. And they work similarly for HDR as well. So you might be streaming an HDR signal, but what if 3 out of the 10 people you're streaming to only have SDR monitors? Then it can do a remap from HDR to SDR in their decoder software. You don't change anything here. We just flag it as what it is here, and they manipulate it at each of the decoding locations to suit their viewing environment.
So what do they need to download this software?
Funny you should ask that. Yes. So let's do, I have no particular path to get to, and I don't know where my destination is in the hour that I've got, but we'll jump straight to that one. So
what about, like, I'm particularly interested in mobile devices?
Yep, same deal. So while we're talking, if you want to go to the App Store, if you go to the App Store, just search Colorfront, C-O-L-O-R, the American spelling. There is one app, it's free, download it. Anyone can do that now on their iPad or iPhone while we're talking. And then later on, all I need from you is an email, and I can send you a link, and you can watch a stream on your phone right now. Okay. So Warren, let's send Warren. Yeah, baby. Let's send Warren an invitation to our stream. So I'll come back to the main user interface, and actually we'll check the bit rate. So that is running. It looks like it's running maybe around 8 or 9 megabits. I can see here for that.
So where are you, Stuart, in the world?
Right. So I'm in Sydney.
You're in Sydney.
In Brisbane.
I'm in Brisbane. Yeah.
Who else is going to connect? I've got
Luciano's in Rome.
Okay. So let's give Luciano something to look on his iPad.
Yep.
Okay.
I've got it here.
Have you installed it?
Yes, I've got it
Okay. So. I will, it'll be easier if I do this. If I hand this around. Right, so if we go into this. So this is something we'll have a look on a bigger screen. This is the broker interface. This is where I send invitations to everyone who wants to decode my stream, okay? So I pick up my server. So we're going to say, and the one we're doing is under my team on Mojo Media Solutions. I'm going to send you an invitation to this stream. Okay, hard to see, I'm sure, but I click on that invite button, okay? And if I put in, what was your email, Warren? I'll do Warren at the same time.
weagles@mac.com.
weagles@mac. So I'll add Warren's email address there. And Luciano, I'm not sure if you're, No, it's not in there. Do you want to type your email address in there?
Yeah, no worries.
It'd be quicker for you to type it than me.
Yeah.
I don't type in Italian.
So Stuart, is there any way to have a chat on that?
No,
between people?
but you can run it minimised on your window and run Zoom or Teams or whatever you want side by side on the same computer.
Right.
Yes.
So we've used SRT-based systems and we've used WebRTC, which is what Zoom and all Discord and all
Yeah.
these other platforms. What I've never understood is there some fundamental reason why Colorfront wouldn't use WebRTC? Because all of this process you're showing about we need to set up multiple streams for different end users
Yeah.
seems horribly inefficient when WebRTC, the device itself, the end users, their setup is it sends an offer so that the WebRTC system can say, well, we know that we have to give these different devices based on their capabilities. It's not a manual process to have to set up different streams. Is there a
I
fundamental
don't
reason
know
why
anything
they
about
chose that?
WebRTC. I must apologise there, but the protocol SRT has been used because of its reliability and its security. So to get through all the Hollywood studios, Disney and Marvel was probably the toughest, and if you can get through there, you've got no problem getting into the military. It's all about security. It's all about forensic watermarking. It's about visible watermarking. It's about encryption, keys, etc. So I'm sending out 3 invitations right now. So
Part of SRT as well.
Sorry?
ASO has been part of the SRT.
So Stuart, is there a light version of that you
IP
can take in the
stuff
field?
for medical.
it's the software-only version.
Like Teradek?
Yeah, and
Like,
also
well, a lot of us
security.
use Teradek and Zoom.
It's the software-only version, the one-channel HD. I mentioned it earlier on. Yeah.
Simpler
Right.
I'll come back. Come back to it. Yeah.
issues of
So who's got their emails?
I'll show you a trick.
So Warren at the front here. If the other 2 guys can connect when they're ready, go to your email.
Shut this down.
Quick resolve, yeah, completely quick resolve
Quick
because we'll
resolve.
need the output. Luciano, go to your email.
Yes. My email now?
Go to your email. If you can go to your email, you should have received an email which is a stream invitation. And if you want to show that to the people sitting around you when you see that. So in that stream invitation, at the footer of that stream invitation, going back to, it's already open. Don't click on any buttons just yet.
Yep. Can I join a session?
You can join yours, Warren.
Join session.
Sorry, may I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, nice credit card collection. Yep.
There's no moths in that list.
Right. I just want to go to the email without clicking on
Yeah,
anything.
so it's the one that's.
So your original question was, how do we get the software to decode, right?
Here we go. I've got a shark.
That's not your email, surely.
Yeah, that's the
That doesn't look like an email. Oh, here we go. Right, so at the bottom of that email, you see there's an download link here for Mac and Windows.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so you've downloaded the app. Yeah, so at this point, I don't know. I've sent you an invitation. I don't know whether you're going to watch on your phone, on an iPad, or a Mac or a Windows computer. From my side, I don't know. You're invisible. You're in Rome
Yep.
with Luciano.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay, nice. Have a nice time.
Awesome.
So I sent you an email.
Have
I
you
was
got
asked
lunch?
2 minutes ago to send something to you, and you've
have
never
you
used this
joined?
system before.
Yeah.
Oh, you got your email?
I sent
You're
that
not getting a
email,
picture?
and you can immediately download, according to your Mac or Windows computer, the decoding
Well, mate,
software
might need a
required
refresh
to.
or something. You should be getting some pictures.
It's free.
Try it again.
If you're watching on your
Join
phone or
session.
your
Oh, there you
iPad, you go to the App Store and you downloaded the Colorfront app, which is called Streaming Player.
Yep.
Not a very interesting name. It's called Streaming Player. But now you've installed that app,
Yeah.
just click on that blue button. Oopsie, sorry.
Yep, that's okay.
I think I just up there. Just click on that.
Yep, and then it.
Oh, and it should say hopefully open on Streaming Player. Right, and you say yes, allow, and now it's connecting. So flip that around.
Yeah, okay.
You'll get pictures and sound on your phone.
Yep.
Even if it's a 4K stream, you can see it on your phone.
HDR off on. Yep.
That's just the status. You don't have to touch that. So, not sure what's going on here. Luciano's got it up on his iPad.
Yeah. Can
And
I
I-
open 2 links like with my phone too?
Yeah,
So with the same link?
multiple device. Yes, you can. Now I'm going to open it on this one as well at the front because this is the super duper duper iPad with the XDR. So this is a P3 HDR iPad.
No, it's not liking my.
I'm not sure what model's your phone. It's certainly tested for 12 and 13. It may or may not work on some older phones.
This is 11.
That might be the issue. I made this recording at the wrong frame rate, so there's a few clicks on the audio. Okay, but if you want to pass this around, this is only an HD stream. The system can send 4K and it can send HDR. I'll connect this to a 4K HDR stream from Colorfront later on, and you can pass it around and have a look. You saw how easy that was to get you looking at it on your iPad. So Luciano, can you hold up your two devices or stand up? And so 2 minutes ago, this guy hadn't been able to connect to anything, and now I'm streaming to two separate devices. I'm not sure where his internet's coming from.
From 5G.
5G, so he's putting it through his 5G. So he could be on the road watching content as I go. And if you pass this around,
Which is the source? I was just looking at latency.
this one.
That one.
So there might be some delay with this because this doesn't need to be flash, hot. Okay. So now we can, to protect things in this system, if I go to that stream, I will add a watermark, and this might help you pick up latency. So if I want to put a visible watermark on, I come in here and I will change it. So at the moment it should have channel 1 written on it.
Correct.
Yeah, and if I go ACS and I hit enter,
Correct.
there you go, so that's just changed over. I can change the opacity to 60, and that will appear as a more obvious watermark straight away as well.
So Stu, is that setting time goes down there as well?
Yes. Is it coming through?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any settings that I can change any funny?
There's a couple of settings on the apps. There's a lot more on the Mac and Windows.
I can't see them.
Yeah, it's through
Did you
the
shoot this, Pete?
settings. It's not on here. Through here you can swipe left
Okay, yes.
and swipe right.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Just get rid of the time bar. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And then here, if you want to see the stream status, you press the information button at the bottom. You can jump to there. You can mute there. There's a mute button down there as well.
Okay.
So what you've just done there is the next thing. So Warren's just, you've got some audio coming out of here. So we're decoding at the moment. This little stream off of here, I'm sending it to you two guys having a lovely romantic time in Rome. Warren's in sunny Brisbane, and I'm in Sydney grading, and I could be sending a live picture to all of you at the same time, all on the road at the same time. Okay? Now, the other decoding option is the Apple TV. So feeding this monitor over here, this iZone monitor, I've got my Apple TV on the desk down here. It's hard to see because it's black on a black table in a black room. You can see the remote, that's silver. Now this is the current model, the Gen 2. There's a Gen 1 back here, it can't decode. Now this one is currently connected to a stream coming from one of my clients in Melbourne. So I sent him a text message this morning, told him that I was presenting to you guys about the streaming. Could he put a show reel up? So he kindly turned on his Resolve in Melbourne, and he's running, this is Daniel from Crayon. Sounds like you might know Daniel. Yeah, you know the content. Yeah, it's probably yours. So, so Crayon Showreel is being streamed through their server in Melbourne, and I'm decoding it through the Apple TV. And the way it works with the Apple TV, because we don't have email on the Apple TV, we just use the remote. We press the play button. Okay, and it will come up with a 6-digit code. And then if I can have my iPad back, wherever that's gone. Thank you very much. That's why I don't put my email on my iPad. So for me to authenticate this Apple TV, I've had to enter my email address in a menu here, but that's all. I don't have email on the Apple TV. Okay, so I can't send an invitation to myself and read it here. So the way we connect has to be done a little bit differently. So I'll go back to, I don't want to update the software. Thank you very little. There we go. Right, so we'll open up the same broker here. Now in this case, you could do this on your invitation as well. There's a button on the bottom of those email invitations which says join with device, I think it says. That will bring up a window. So if I go here, let's go to the same stream as we're doing. I've got lots of servers from different customers available on my system here. So I'm going to connect to channel 1. So if I go here and I say, click on that, I've got to press that button because it's timed out. Press that again, it's going to give me a new code. And I type that number in here. So in your case, this would be on your phone. I type Q5 9NFF, 9NFF. That's now authenticating my email address with me logged into the system to say, yes, I'm the real person. It's me, Stuart Monksfield at Mojo Media Solutions. And it's now allowed me to connect to that same stream. So on the Apple TV device, we can decode 4K HDR, and the advantage of Apple TV as a decoder, and the Gen 2 one in particular, is it's HDR capable. So if we were streaming 4K Dolby Vision HDR, the encoder's going to strip off, if you remember, all that metadata that's coming out of the grading system, which describes all the trims on a shot-by-shot basis. It's going to encode it with the pictures and sound. It's going to send it through the cloud. It's going to come down to this Apple TV, and that metadata is added to the HDMI as what we call HDMI tunneling. It's a term where that metadata goes with the pictures and sound up to the external TV. And if it was a Dolby Vision capable TV like this one, or I'm not sure about that one, but an LG is what I typically see, it would trigger the LG into Dolby Vision mode, and all that metadata would come up and control the Dolby chip in that TV on a shot-by-shot basis to do the remapping according to what's being sent by the grading system. So the Apple TV is a very cost-effective 4K HDR decoding device. You know, they're only 250 bucks. Okay, so in your home, in your post house, in your edit suite, you've most certainly already got all the hardware you need to decode a stream from any other post house who was using a Colorfront system. And you could connect, if you have Blackmagic or AJA hardware connected to that system, which if it's an Avid or a Resolve, you would, then you can connect the output to an SDI monitor, which is what we're doing over here. Okay, so you can collaborate anywhere around the world on any of these projects, and you don't have to spend a dime at the receiving end, and the only people who have to spend any money are those who are sending the source. Yeah. So 16 channels of audio for each of those 4 streams, which allows us to do an Atmos mix if we're sending that around. Okay, you can see the audio's flickering away on there. Warren, if you wanted to disconnect from that stream, so quit that and go back to Resolve.
So just close down the player.
Yep. Now I'm going to ask Warren to be my colorist in Brisbane. So on this system over here, I'm going to connect to Warren's output. Control Q. Let's get rid of that. So I'll go back to the broker. So you're on channel 4. So I'm going to stop channel 1 because I don't have enough bandwidth out of this building. I'm going to check the bit rate. So if you look at the screen up,
I'll just be merrily grading away, waiting for you to talk to me or ring me. Yeah.
Yep, yes, right. I'll be there soon, Warren. Hang on a second. I'm just turning this baby on. So I'm going to up the bit rate a little bit because we're going to look at it on a nice reference monitor. I'm not going to go. Well, we'll try 10 megabits. I don't know exactly what bit rate we'll have. Okay, so I'm just setting that to 10. I measured it yesterday and there was 17 up, but there's always a little bit of float going on these things. So okay, so I'll start that stream. So on the channel 4, Warren's source, I've just hit start. It takes a few seconds to negotiate with the SRT broker in the cloud. And that will then go solid white, and I'm going to stop that other one there because that was obviously chewing some bit rate as well. When this one goes white, then it's available for me to connect to over there. There we go. So that's now streaming, and I could send his feed to any of you by sending you a new invitation right now. And it would have new link details, new encryption information for you to be able to connect to this different stream.
Stu?
Yep.
If this was real though, I'd have to have the hardware with me, yeah?
Yes, that's right. Or you could have the new software version running on the background on the same computer.
Right.
Without any hardware. Yeah, that's very, very new though.
Okay.
But we can have a look at it. I've got it installed on here. Right, so I'm going to connect now to channel 4 out of this server, which is you. And I can skip here because I'm on the same computer. I'll skip the whole email invitation. Sorry you can't see what I'm doing at the front here, but I can show you after my formal presentation if you like. So it's now connecting at this end, and I'll just bring that.
Oh, you're going to love this grade, Stu. Like I've done this beautiful thing. You
There
like
we
it?
go.
So you're still in Sydney.
So yeah,
you're-
sorry, I'm
you're-
in Sydney, I know.
you're
Sorry, I
looking
just
at
jumped the
your-
border, and Anastasia doesn't like me coming
No,
across that border.
No, neither do we.
Yeah.
You're looking at on your SDI. I'm looking at it on my SDI.
Yeah,
You're
I've got
saying-
my SDI monitor over here. I'm sending
Yeah.
it to you.
What do you think?
Or in this case, I'm
So
I'm
is he doing
commenting
it
on
through
the,
software or through the hardware?
we're going through this box at the moment.
Are you
So
saying
hardware.
there's a software option?
There is a software. He could be doing the same thing.
So what do you need for the software version?
I need
Software.
money. That's all. That's
Well,
all.
how much is it?
Yeah,
Well, you know.
There you go.
It's that new. So new.
We can talk about money at the end, maybe.
Is that the HD version, yeah?
This is the
one-
HD only. The
Yeah.
software is HD only.
Yeah.
If you want 4K, you have to buy the box, and it's a more expensive license, but
Give it
it's a
6 months.
4-channel one.
Right.
So, yeah, so Warren, if you change the grade or if you hit play or stop, now you'll get a better idea of latency between the two, because he's got 2 monitors up there. So the one in front of Warren, of course, is
Right.
his source,
I'm going to go.
and that's the decoded, which could potentially be coming all the way around the world before it got to this monitor.
There we go.
How come the box
Black
is
and
so
white.
big? What's in it?
Yeah.
Lots of fans.
What magic?
There's a lot of air in there.
Can you make
It's the,
it littler?
Not really. Well, there's a different version. So I brought this one. There's 2 versions. The first one that we have is what Joel.
big rack,
everyone's
right?
got. It's a rack mounting one, but it's very noisy.
Okay.
It's an enterprise. What we call an enterprise class machine. It has 15 fans in it, and they're all running all the time. So if I brought that in here, you wouldn't be able to hear me. If you took it on set, it'd be picked up by all the mics. So this has the same processing capability, but it's silent. So you could, if you were a freelancer working from home, Luch, you could have one of these, put it under your desk, and it's not going to bug the hell out of you with fan noise all day, and you've still got the same functionality. If you've got a rack room and storage galore and switches and security and aircon running, you're probably going to put the 1RU version in. They're exactly the same price, exactly the same functionality. It depends on your requirements. And if you need the software only version, that's available for Mac or Windows. Price is the same. You might only need to run that on the base level Mac Mini. It's like an M1 chip Mac Mini. What are they, $1,200 or something like that? And a Blackmagic thing like this for another 180. That's all you need, plus the software, and that's an annual fee that you pay for the software. So your hardware cost, if you just want the single channel system, is like 1,500 Aussie, and you could take that on set and it will be silent, and you can stream to anywhere around the world.
Thank you.
Sign up here.
Well, I'm using Teradek. Like
Yeah,
most people.
and the people you're watching,
Zoom. I
phone,
don't need to send 4K out. No one does.
anything you
Oh,
want can
that's it.
decode it. So compare, obviously these monitors, one's an LCD and one's the super duper LCD. They're both, I think, in 709 mode at the moment, calibrated by Stuart. And if you go to a still frame, it will obviously synchronize the 2 images up together. But in terms of latency, that should be sub-second latency.
Was that price software or hardware?
The 1500 is what you pay Apple and me for a bit of Blackmagic.
Oh yeah.
And then the software, which was the question I didn't answer yet. So at the moment, there is no fully locked down price on the software, but I've been given permission because I'm very,
Sorry, what's the 1,500 for then?
is what you would have to spend if you didn't
Oh,
already have a
sorry,
computer.
I've misunderstood too. Yeah,
The software license, the price that I've been allowed to use right now, and it's not necessarily going to be the set in stone, is 3,600 for the year. Okay,
Right.
and that includes your egress data, use of the broker, use of the SRT gateway, a number of devices watching your streams. You don't pay for any of this. You get support from Colorfront if you've got any issues. So it works out to whatever that is, $300 a month, $10 a day, and you could be streaming, and
I'll
you
pay
can,
$300 a
and
month,
you
no
can,
problem.
and you can stream. Their system allows you to stream to 50 people, 50. If you go back to the SohoNet product, they limit you, I think, to 5.
Is
They
there,
charge 500 for 1 week for HD.
is there a restriction around the egress data?
No, not at those bit rates. The bit rates that I mentioned, 10 megabits in HD mode.
Yeah.
20 megabits in 4K mode is what Colorfront will allow you to stream at across all your channels, if you have multiple channels, to 50 people per stream and never have to pay any more egress data.
Can you do a monthly subscription, or is this annual?
That's an annual fee. There
Right.
probably will be, but it won't work out to the 300 a
No,
month.
I understand that.
It's likely to be double that, is my suggestion, so
Right.
600. But if you did just have a 2-month shoot,
Yeah.
2 months at 600 is still not a bad deal considering what it's doing, and still way cheaper than the competitive systems. I didn't want to really go into pricing here because shouldn't be, in my opinion, a purely salesy rah-rah. But you're asking me because you're interested, because you love it, and as I said at the beginning,
We're using
That's a-
Terra,
I think
right?
this is
That's a good sign.
freaking awesome and one of the best things I've seen in 10 years.
It's like Shark Tank.
How much is the box then?
At the
What's
moment,
the offering?
Whatever that was.
up until recently, it's been 8,300 Aussie.
Okay.
Obviously, that's a one-off,
Yeah.
but the exchange rate's gone a bit tits up recently. So it's probably going to be another 5 or 7% because of the US dollar in the last month.
That's best price for cash.
And that's turnkey, is it?
It's an appliance. We would refer to it as an appliance. So it comes complete, all the cards.
Right.
So there's a Blackmagic 8K card in here, so it's 4 times 12 gig. There's
Yeah.
a high-end NVIDIA GPU.
Right.
Only a small system
So are
drive.
you building it yourself, or is that coming from overseas?
I built this one myself, but it took
Right.
me 4 months to get it. So I'd probably get them sent to me by Colorfront out of the US, which is where the other ones come from.
Because the reason I'm asking is because there's all these new Dell boxes and stuff which just take 1 RU and they're half the size, they're like really compact.
Yeah, this has got 2 full PCIe
Oh, right.
cards in it, so that's one of the issues there. But yeah, if you want single channel, it could be as simple as a Mac Mini, and they're cheap, and you can buy them off the shelf. You know, walk into a store and get one right now. For single channel.
So with the
Sorry.
single,
Yep.
so
This lady was before you.
Oh, sorry.
One minor question. Go back to the minor question. Just quickly about the clouds, and so just in terms of the signal, can you just talk us through when the data leaves that box?
Yep.
Where was that demo going to?
So, the term we use for the cloud part of it is the SRT gateway.
Yep.
Initially, when Colorfront first started working on this, they were working with someone else's SRT gateway. That company is called Hivision, and they were one of the original developers of SRT, is my understanding. And through Colorfront's use of the Hivision SRT gateway, they discovered how old some parts of it are and how antiquated and performance limited some of the aspects of the Hivision SRT gateway are. They also discovered, because they were running it on the AWS cloud, so they would pay, I don't know, $2 US an hour, let's say, to run a machine, a virtual machine on the cloud, and they would pay another $5 an hour, whatever it is, to run the Hivision SRT gateway software on that machine. So Colorfront, during development, have had multiples of these Hivision systems, and they've been paying that every hour, every day, 24/7, 365 days a year, and they've been picking up monstrous bills, because during development we're also downloading streams, demoing, egress data charges, we're paying AWS. Colorfront have been shelling out monstrous checks. And in doing so, they got annoyed, but they also found that the Hivision gateway, which incidentally is the system that SohoNet use, SohoNet put a skin on the front, so it's called SohoNet, but it's actually Hivision's gateway. They discovered that it's limited to 250 megabits total input bandwidth and output bandwidth. Now, if you want to stream to 50 people at 20 megabits, that's not enough. So for the last 12 months, Colorfront have developed their own SRT gateway, and they've just in the last month flipped over all the demo stuff that we've been doing, and these streams that we're doing now are now going through the Colorfront SRT gateway, which they're not running on AWS cloud. They found another cloud host, completely different costing structure for the egress data. Their own gateway can now do 1,000 streams, and that didn't even break sweat at that point. They had to build what we call a zombie on AWS to connect to their SRT gateway to pull 1,000 streams just for development testing purposes, and it still barely broke sweat. So they know that their SRT gateway outperforms, 1,000 to 1 or more the Hivision one, and that's why now they've moved to their system. There's no concern about how many people they're streaming to, what bandwidth they're going to be streaming to. If you wanted to stream at 50 megabits, it can do it, but we might have to have a conversation with Colorfront and say, can we increase the limit on the bit rate for this client for this period because they need to go at a slightly higher quality, and there may be a $500 for the year to up it to whatever kind of data rate difference. But we're still talking very small amounts of money compared with what you would be writing large checks for to all the other vendors if you went with this.
So what I'm picking up from this is that the end client customers who buy the service have to treat the cloud infrastructure as a black box, and the studios have to have some kind of accreditation.
Not necessarily. Okay, so to use the Apple TV, the phone, the iPad, we need to be working in this Colorfront ecosystem. If you do want to use their technology and just go directly from this box to a Mac Pro, you don't have to go through the cloud. You could do it across your LAN. My first tests were just across my Telstra supplied, router in my home, and I just went across my LAN. And you can type IP addresses in, port numbers, manually set the passphrases, and go from box to box without going through the cloud if you want.
Yeah.
You can do that.
It's about you're locked into using their SRT gateway. That was my point. You can't.
You're actually not either. No, you're not locked into that. But they're also providing. So some of the Hollywood studios, again for security reasons, have asked to have their own SRT gateway. And in fact, I've got 2 or 3 customers in Australia who have also shown an interest in doing that. And they want to have their own SRT gateway in their own rack, under their own control, or they might want to run it on their cloud provider of choice, but integrate it under a VPN for security reasons into the rest of their company's network. So you don't have to use the Colorfront SRT gateway on the Colorfront server. You can use the Colorfront SRT gateway on your server, be that cloud or on-premise, or you could use a third-party SRT gateway if you wish, or you don't have to use an SRT gateway at all if you fancy doing direct streaming, which you can also do.
Who are the bigger users? Is it people using it for remote grading? People sending the stream studios to view live stuff? How's it split? Where's the split?
So right now, because the single channel software only version, literally the paint is still very, very wet on that. It's still being developed. I only got my hands on it 2 hours after getting off the plane on Thursday morning, and it was shown to the public at NAB 1 month ago. It's that new. This, however, Joel, when did we start talking to you guys? July, August last year?
Yeah, so we used it in a job in October.
Yeah. So October they've made the first use there. So because the first systems that we could provide were known about before the software only hadn't been discussed or considered, everyone had to buy these. And because of the cost and the investment involved in buying a 4-channel box, it was the bigger post houses. So
Studios.
And the studio. So in Australia, we've got 3 systems at Definition Studios. We've got 2 systems at Sound Firm. We've got 1 at Crayon. We've got 1 at Beyond, 1 at Flying Bark. Just sold 2 days ago to Arc Edit in Sydney. We got 2 at the Post Lounge. So if you know those companies, you will know some of the work they've been doing recently. Think about that, and you would know some of the projects that were or are now going through this system. So there's 1 client I've got who's streaming from a colorist who's working in Toronto, and they're watching 4K grade happening in Sydney on a big Christie projector, hours per day. So they have an open mic going on a Zoom call back to the colorist between the 2, or just any kind of phone conversation you want, separately to the stream coming in, being decoded up onto the Christie, and you just work like that for 8 hours all day. And it's like the colorist and the director are in the room together, because the latency is so low and the color is transparent all the way to the end.
So one possible application here is if I was a freelancer doing some work for Sound Firm, and I was working at home, I could install the software version on, stream to the SRT gateway that they are paying for, and then they could supervise me remotely.
Yeah, so 1 client I've got already is thinking, this is a smaller post house. They're thinking to purchase some of the single channel systems themselves as the post house. They will purchase the iMacs to run them on, and they will give them to the freelancers whilst that freelancer is working on a show for them.
Yeah.
So the licensing and the purchase is done on the post house's account, and they send a small Pelican case to you. You keep it for a month while you're working on their job. You use it, you stream to whoever needs to watch it. When you finish the job, you pack it up in the Pelican case and send it back to the post house. But you could buy your own as well.
Yep.
You know, it's not silly money. That's the thing, right? Compared to paying parking in Sydney, it's cheaper to pay $10 a day to have this streaming than it is to pay, you know, $30, $40 a day in a car park in Sydney. You know, it's the price of a coffee.
The only thing to think about on top of that too is the controlled environment. So if you are doing remote grading, because we use it between 2 different facilities, we have 2 different HDR suites, so it is again a controlled environment for a HDR project. But saying that, we have like iPads that we send out to people. If a DP maybe wants to kind of get on it, they get a bit of an idea from the iPad, but kind of keep in mind a controlled environment is probably.
For the cinematographers in the room, which probably there's 1 or 2, an idea I had with the iPad stuff. So who's seen something called the HDR analyzer, or FSHDR's got some in it? So Rebel Fleet has seen or use HDR analyzer. So that's an AJA product, Arja Video Systems. The analysis though, and the clever colour science comes from Colorfront. So they did a collaborative product. And there's another one, so that's the FSHDR. The HDR analyzer is scopes specifically, waveform vector scopes specifically designed for HDR work with max CLL real-time analysis based on an SDI signal going into this box. So Colorfront own that software, and the arrangement with Arja allows them to sell that and use that themselves through different channels should they do so. So I suggested to them, well, how about making a version of the decoding software that instead of showing that stream as a picture, a moving picture like we see here, how about having HDR scopes on that iPad? So the DP who's walking around on set could be receiving a stream that's coming from the video split, and as they're walking around, they're looking at scopes, CIE charts to see where the colours are sitting on the colour gamut side of things, and maybe making decisions or instructions to the lighting to change this or change that as they see on scopes live as they walk around. They don't have to walk back to that tent, allow their eyes to adjust for 5 minutes before they say what's going to go on. They're looking at things here, and maybe they can just swipe left, see the video, swipe right, see the scopes. I thought that would be a really nice tool for the cinematographers to have.
Yeah, but they'd want to be in a controlled environment if they're looking at scopes and looking at a monitor, wouldn't they?
Scopes, I don't know. How much can you adjust off of measure of scopes in terms of exposure,
I'd have
the
to
lighting?
ask them. Would you use that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty detailed stuff.
Well, you would do if you didn't have a nice controlled tent and a monitor to go and look at, wouldn't you?
You have enough time to do that too.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
It's not
But
just
if you're making that sort of decision, it's more likely to be more of a controlled environment.
The
if you're looking
scopes
into that
are
detail.
more than you would see on a typical RGB parade. So Joel's familiar. So if you're familiar with the CIE chart, I know Stuart will be familiar with that, you can see where colours are sitting on the P3 colour gamut. So if you were doing a nighttime shoot with some very saturated neon fluoros, you might find that those fluoros are outside of the P3 colour space. So if that's going to cause a problem later on for an HDR grade, where one of your key elements in that scene is beyond the allowable colour space, because the camera can capture it, doesn't mean it sits within P3 within the finishing space. So maybe you can do something about it on set. So the Colorfront HDR analyzer gives you a CIE map of where all the live pictures and the pixels are sitting constantly, and you can see if something is outside of the P3 colour space.
Yeah.
And you could put some gels on something. I guess I'm not a cinematographer. I don't know what the terms or the techniques are to fix those things, but you know you've got a problem. Maybe you can do something about it before it becomes the colorist's problem or the deliverable problem. Yeah. Any more questions?
Good, mate. It's nice.
Happy to, if do we have time?
Yeah, but lunch is at 1.
Okay, so we've got a few minutes. If we want to have a crack, we can try the software-only version on my MacBook Pro, if you're interested to see how that behaves.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, and this will be interesting to the Rebel Fleet guys. So this streaming functionality that we're talking about here The technology behind it is available on on-set dailies as a standard feature. They don't have to pay anything extra, but they can stream their timeline. So what we've got here is a live SDI in and streaming a live signal. If it's an OSD daily system, when they built their timeline and done the grade and done the syncing, there's a timeline built, they hit play, they can stream straight off of that timeline, just like we've been streaming here. But interestingly, the player software that we've been looking at on Warren's computer and my computer here, there's an interface socket between the player software back to the OSD. So I can do remote control play stop from the player. Yeah, you like that, don't you? Yeah, baby. So I can play stop from the other side of the world, a timeline that's on a server in Auckland, playing back my dailies.
Very cool.
I'll explain the reason. Ask me to go back and explain the reason why they do that at the end, once I've done this. So here, I'm sorry you can't see this too well, but I'll launch STS, is the streaming server.
So now this is a software only one.
This is a software only version. The paint is very wet. Let's have some pictures. Right, so it should be. There we go. So, Adam?
I was explaining how to get 4 inputs on that. I've already figured it out for you.
So
you get a quad split, so you can put 4 SDI signals into it,
you can
combine into one, and put the HD into 4 signals.
Yeah.
It's often a request to have more than one camera.
Well, this one obviously can do that. This one you'd have to put a quad splitter on. Yeah, but you're dropping the resolution to it. So I've just launched that software on here. Now this could be running Resolve, and this could be running in the background. Okay. So I've just taken the SDI in through here, straight in here. I'm going to hit Start Stream. Okay. Now this will be who's going to be connecting to this. I'll send you invitations again. Oh yeah, that one didn't work, did it? Okay, maybe I'll just do it on my iPad and let you have a look at it here.
So they work on Samsung devices?
Not yet. That was a question. Strangely, I was surprised that they haven't been asked before, but I asked it at NAB, and I thought, oh, we haven't been asked that. Oh, yeah, well, I'm getting asked. So
I get asked that one all the time. That one's sort of,
where are we? Channel 2. This is it's been assigned to my channel 1. Right, so that tells me that it's now streaming. I'm going to have to stop this one because it's chewing up too much bandwidth on our internet here. There we go. It should be a bit more stable. Right, so there's a single channel. So previously, when we were using the other system, it was a 4-channel box. So you can just see 4 greyed out boxes there, yeah? And underneath it, 1 green one.
Yes.
So the top line with the 4 greyed out boxes is a 4-channel server. It's physically that box. This is the broker interface. This is where we send the invitations from. Underneath it, there's a line. The next line down only has 1 button, and it's currently green. That's this. So it's all on my account because this is me and this is me. So on my login here, I see that server and that one. I've got another one back at my office that would appear on my account as well. So this one has gone green saying it's got a signal. So all I need to do is either send an invitation or go straight to it on the iPad, just because I can. And this in 2 seconds flat, give or take, not quite flat. Open. And so don't forget this baby. Oh, I wanted to show you Dolby Vision on this. I'll connect to a Colorfront demo stream, which they have running 24/7 afterwards.
But the Dolby Vision on the iPad has to be Pro version, right?
That's with the XDR display. There we go. So this is my IMAX movie. So this was released about 4 years ago, called Turtle Odyssey. It's shot in stereoscopic 3D, 8K, and it's currently on release around the world. So I co-produced this, and I did a lot of the stereoscopic 3D alignment work on this. No, I don't have a fast forward button, so it's gone through the boring part at the beginning with the titles. But anyway, have a look. Pass that around. But this is now coming off this standalone. So this could be the video split on set. It was that easy.